Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. As we head into the weekend, Hezbollah with, could we call it a shot across the bow to Israel? Hezbollah, the top Iranian terror
Could
proxy,
this im-
Iran's most lethal proxy, releasing a long propaganda video today, folks, Friday, August 16th, showing what can only be described as an underground missile city. This is a vast network of tunnels, a complex, so to speak, a terror tunnel writ large, you could call it. I presume it's in southern Lebanon. We're not quite sure. Obviously, southern Lebanon is Hezbollah's main power base, but Hezbollah also present in the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, more near the Syrian border, and also in the suburbs south of Beirut. So we're not quite sure the exact location, but what we do know is this is an underground tunnel complex that's used to store missiles. Could these be advanced precision guided missiles? Hezbollah and Iran, by extension, the Iranian master of Hezbollah, but Hezbollah really flexing its muscle today and showing off this massive underground missile city. And obviously, the timing is no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, as once again, this is what are we going on 17 days now, where again, the world is waiting for this Iranian likely joint attack along with Hezbollah against Israel. We're going to break all this down today. I think this is a very important development. And when I say a shot across the bow, what is Hezbollah's goal in publishing this propaganda, in releasing this propaganda video today? Why would they do this? Timing, obviously, but is there a larger message here? Number one. Number two, we're going to take you on this live stream into a Hezbollah terror tunnel. Yes, folks, along with the Israel Defense Forces, a little while back, I entered, we're talking tunnels here, Hezbollah tunnels. I entered a Hezbollah terror tunnel, descending some 200 feet underground along the Israel-Lebanon border. We are going to take you inside that tunnel. You won't want to miss that. That's coming up shortly. We also want to talk a bit about, okay, where are we? What is the state of play? This Iranian-backed terror onslaught, this barrage against Israel we've heard about now for about 17 days. When does it come? Is Iran climbing down? Will Hezbollah lead the fight? How's this going to look? And why the reason for the delay? Is it psychological terror? I think that's part of it, certainly. But Iran has also painted itself into a corner, so to speak. And I'll explain what I mean. And also, what about the U.S. role in this? We have Israel's foreign minister meeting with the foreign ministers of France and Britain today, but also in regular contact with top U.S. officials, which brings us to the ceasefire talks today in Doha, Qatar, where the U.S. seems very excited. Biden administration officials say, hey, we've made so much progress in the past 48 hours towards a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israeli officials are saying, hey, not so fast, slow your roll. Hamas largely decimated, but still, Israel cannot agree to a premature ceasefire that would leave Hamas intact. So we'll break all this down before we get into it. And believe me, you're going to want to see this journey into a Hezbollah terror tunnel. But before we get into it, quick reminder, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube. Click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, we're about 40,000 subscribers from the 1 million mark. Hard to believe. So we have a goal. We set a goal for ourselves this year in 2024. It's good to set goals at the beginning of the year. By the end of this year, we'd love to reach 1 million subscribers and continue to grow and reach more people with the message around the world. I'm looking at our chat right now. It's very active. We've got people from around the world watching us every single day here on The Watchman. Hey, for such a time as this. So the more people who like it, who subscribe, the more YouTube will recommend it to people. And that's not for our glory. That's for the glory of God, because we're bringing a message unapologetically of biblical truth. We want more people to hear what we have to share. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we have this platform. So be sure to subscribe. Tell your friends about us as well. Okay, let's break down this missile city. You might say city. Wow, Stakelbeck, big statement. No, folks, really. You see the footage. This is a subterranean, underground, massive complex of tunnels. And let's read more from the Jerusalem Post, and they break it down. They call it, rightly, a massive underground tunnel network. Just reading this straight off my phone. The space within the tunnels seen in this Hezbollah propaganda video is vast and contains enough room for several trucks and motorcycles to pass through it. Now, my trusty producer Daniel and I were joking a little bit before we came on. We said, man, Hezbollah is really proud of its fleet of motorcycles. Every time I see a Hezbollah propaganda video, there's guys on motorcycles, jihadis on motorcycles anyway. But again, you see them in this propaganda video. Hezbollah published it today, and they are saying that from this network of underground tunnels, folks, they can launch missiles. Now, look, what are the capabilities of Hezbollah? We've talked about it often here in the newscast. At least, and it's probably greater at this point, at least 150,000 rockets and missiles pointed at every inch of Israel. Probably more like 200,000 now from what my sources in Israel tell me. But not only that, folks, you have to consider the precision-guided munitions, PGMs for short. These do exactly what their name says. These are precision-guided missiles, which means, hey, it's one thing to kind of haphazardly fire some rockets, which is deadly enough and bad enough. They can hit their target. It's another thing entirely, though, to have the coordinates punched in and to precisely on target hit your target. That's what precision-guided munitions do. And Hezbollah has them. Make no mistake about it. And the main reason you've seen Israel carry out hundreds, if not more, of airstrikes in Syria over the past decade plus now is to offset those PGMs. The Iranian regime is using Syria as a transit point. That's why Israel has bombed the international airports in Damascus and Aleppo, because the Iranian regime is shipping in many times on civilian planes, cargo planes, civilian airliners, PGM parts. They then transit those parts across the Syrian border into Lebanon, into the hands of Hezbollah, where they are then assembled, and voila, you have a precision-guided munition. We don't know how many Hezbollah has, but look, they have them, and they're a potential game changer. Again, that's why Israel so many times has struck in Syria. These PGMs are a red line. You know, I talked to one former Israeli military official earlier this year. He said, okay, war, the Great Northern War, war with Hezbollah. And overall, I'd say war with Iran writ large in a larger sense, Hezbollah and the Iranian master and the Ring of Fire. Number one reason, obviously, a major regional war would be Iran's nuclear program. Israel strikes it, and here we go. The other reason, those precision-guided munitions. That's 1A. Folks, that's how concerned Israeli officials in the political and military leadership are about Hezbollah wielding precision-guided munitions. Because, again, it's one thing to launch rockets with no clear destination for those rockets. It's another thing to have them hit with absolute accuracy and precision places like Ben Gurion Airport, God forbid, Tel Aviv, Haifa, the Dimona nuclear reactor. This is on the table when you have precision-guided munitions. So that's a red line for Israel. Okay, let's get back now, and that brings us back to the unveiling today by Hezbollah, this underground missile tunnel, missile city, really. That's what we called in the title for this video. The tunnels seen in this propaganda video show many terrorists operating inside of them. The tunnels appear to be part of an underground network that, along with missiles, contains lighting, technology, and computers. Folks, this isn't some hole dug in your backyard that your dog dug to bury a bone. This is a massive, high-tech, relatively high-tech by tunnel standards, underground facility. The space is vast. It contains enough room, as we said, for trucks and motorcycles. And the text of the video threatened Israel. It said, quote, Israel will face, and this is par for the course, but let's reiterate it anyway for you. Israel will face a destiny and reality it didn't expect any day. War with us, Hezbollah, extends across all of Palestine, from the Lebanese border to the Jordanian border to the Red Sea to Kiryat Shimona to a lot. These targets are in our possession, and these missiles are placed, deployed, and focused on targets in perfect security that Israel believes are in perfect security. So what do you think of this, folks? Idle boasts or the real deal? I want to give you my take. Look, I think Hezbollah is doing this obviously intentionally. Why now? Because Hezbollah is saying to Israel, it's the psychological terror. Hezbollah is saying, we're going to hit you, and we're going to hit you very hard. And if you hit us preemptively, Israel, which has been discussed, then we will unleash these missiles to the four corners of the world's one and only Jewish state, which, helpful reminder, is the size of the state of New Jersey. Israel is tiny. And what Hezbollah is saying here is that we have advanced missiles and we can reach any point in Israel. That's number one, but we knew that already. But number two, I don't know if Hezbollah believes there's an element of surprise here, that perhaps Israel did not know that this underground missile city existed. And now Hezbollah is debuting it and saying, aha, we have tricks, Israel, up our sleeves that you are not prepared for and you're not aware of. Is that what Hezbollah is saying? And let me just say, it's unclear. Did the IDF know? Did Israeli intelligence know this underground missile city existed somewhere in Lebanon? Unclear. But this is certainly the first time Hezbollah unveiled it. And again, I called it a shot across the bow, where Hezbollah is saying, and they've said this over the past few months, folks, Hezbollah is saying, we have capabilities, Israel, that you know nothing about. So is this part of Hezbollah showing its hand a little bit in that regard and preempting Israel's preemption? Let me explain. I know it sounded kind of weird. If Israel plans, and again, there's been chatter over the past 2.5 weeks, and we've discussed here in the live stream that it would make perfect sense if Israel preemptively strikes Hezbollah. Look, Israel's been waiting now for 17, 18 days to be attacked. Isn't that where we're at right now? I've never seen anything like it, where a nation is just sitting around waiting to be attacked by either Iran, Hezbollah, both of them together, with the Houthis, with the Shia militias. So I've posed a question over the past 2 weeks. I don't know, would it not make sense to maybe, if you know it's coming and you have a good idea where it's coming from, would it make sense to maybe preemptively strike? I gave the example of the 6-Day War, 1967. Egypt, Syria, Jordan massed on Israel's borders. The entire world knew they were going to attack. Israel struck first, wiped out the Egyptian Air Force on the ground, and the war was essentially over in the early hours. But then you contrast that with 1973, the Yom Kippur War, where Israel was attacked first. Israel did not attack preemptively, and it got very dicey. Israel prevailed, resounding victory at the end of the day, but a bloody, costly affair that's still debated today in Israel. I talk to people who are in the Yom Kippur War when I'm in Israel. It's still an intense and acrimonious debate among people who were involved in that war, because there were, I think, over 2,000 Israelis killed in the Yom Kippur War. That's a massive number for Israel, for a tiny nation like Israel to lose. But I say all that to say, does a preemptive strike make sense? And we have a very intelligent and smart viewership here of watchmen and women on the wall. And I've gotten a lot of comments on this. I try to read the comments as much as I can. We get thousands of comments every day. I try as much as I can to get through your comments. But people made the point and said, Erick, you're wrong. Look, preemptive, not smart, because if Israel does that, then the world howls and gnashes its teeth against Israel and says, Israel, you started it. Even if Israel not only strikes Iran first, if it strikes Hezbollah first, but if Israel is struck first and then Israel unleashes hell in response, then the world says, okay, they were attacked. And, but I would caution people, and look, there's something to that. And I don't know what the Israeli military knows and the Israeli government knows and Israeli intelligence services know. I just know, watching this unfold for the past 2.5 weeks, that it's an uneasy feeling, and it creates psychological terror within Israel to be waiting around. And we keep hearing 24 to 48 hours, the attack is coming. To me, do you act first and not wait for it to come to you? Again, I'm sure Israel has a plan. I think the main reason they have not struck is, and we've said this and we'll say it again, their hands are tied by the Biden administration and other Western governments. I told you today that The foreign ministers of Britain and France were in Israel meeting with the Israeli foreign minister. And what they are essentially saying, folks, is, look, Israel, we are all in, and this is the U.S. message, certainly. We are all in helping you to defend against an Iranian attack. We're all in. As soon as Iran launches, we're going to help shoot them down. We're going to intercept them. And they say, look what we did on April 13th, that unprecedented Iranian barrage, over 300 missiles and drones fired, ballistic cruise missiles, drones fired, 99% intercepted, miraculous. On the scale of a 6-day war miracle, by the way, which I mentioned a minute ago. But that was a coalition, folks, remember, of Israel, the U.S., France, Britain, Jordan, shooting those incoming projectiles down. And the United States is saying, we can do it again. We'll do it again. And obviously, as we've discussed, and we discussed with our good friend Yair Pinto of TBN Israel on Wednesday, again, if you miss any of our live streams, check it out in our archives, homepage under newscasts. But they're saying, look, we'll do it again. We'll help you again. But if you go on the offensive, then we can't guarantee we're going to help you. And we discussed with Yair the U.S. assets. I think it's 9 warships in the waters of the Middle East right now, Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman, Red Sea. We had a guided missile submarine steaming towards the region, as well as an aircraft carrier just on Wednesday. Yair and I discussed this. Again, Yair's awesome. Check it out, what we discussed on Wednesday. But Yair made the point. And so clearly, Israel's saying, okay, we want that Western support for missile defense when this barrage comes. And Yair said, look, and he said this actually last week as well, twice in the past 2 weeks I've interviewed him. He said, Erick, I can tell you this, from what his sources, he's got impeccable sources on the ground in Israel, of course. He was a spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces just a few months ago. And you can check him out at TBN Israel here on YouTube. But he said, look, as soon as the first Iranian or Hezbollah missile is in the air, Israel's going to unleash hell. It's not going to be a case this time like we saw on April 13th, where Israel waits and allows itself to be attacked. Who could forget those images of Iranian missiles over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where Israel waits around and by the grace of God, quite literally, by the grace of God, those projectiles were intercepted. He said this time, no. Because you think about it, a big dud for Iran in one sense, in that 99% were intercepted. But I've made the point here that it was also a victory because there was not a meaningful response. Israel fired one missile a few days later in response, hit a sensitive site in Natanz, where, of course, an Iranian nuclear reactor is located. But it wasn't the kind of response that could deter the Iranian regime, clearly. But Yair said this time, Erick, we are going to really hit hard. And I think that's part of the delay and part of Iran's calculus, why it is delaying. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how Iran has painted itself in a corner here, and it must act, I believe. And same with Hezbollah. Speaking of Hezbollah, we're talking about this vast underground terror network. And again, the shot across the bow today, if you just joined us, Hezbollah releasing this propaganda video showing an underground missile city somewhere in Lebanon, where they say they have missiles ready to launch at every site in Israel. It's a vast tunnel network. Speaking of Hezbollah terror tunnels, do you know? And we're talking about Hezbollah perhaps taking the lead in this Iranian onslaught and Hezbollah perhaps invading on the ground? You might say, no, you're crazy. Is it outside the realm of possibility to see a Hezbollah ground incursion in this great northern war that's coming? Folks, listen, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has talked about this for years. He's talked about invading the Galilee. Now, you might say, look, no, it's not going to happen. When I say invasion, I don't mean 1,000 men. Or do I? Now, I mean, honestly, I personally am talking about a more limited incursion. Those crack Radwan Hezbollah special forces, they're called the Radwan unit, infiltrating. But in all seriousness, on October 7th, 3,000 Hamas terrorists invaded southern Israel, flowing in from Gaza. Oh, and by the way, a helpful reminder, they were followed by 6,000 civilians who raped, looted, and pillaged, those innocent Palestinian civilians from Gaza. So you had a mass invasion. Would we see that in the north? Different terrain there, I'm not sure. But folks, this is something we must watch closely. This is a very real possibility. A Hezbollah, not only the rockets and missiles flying, a Hezbollah ground incursion into northern Israel. Now, we're talking about the tunnel complex. One of the means Hezbollah could infiltrate northern Israel is through underground terror tunnels. In 2018, hard to believe it's almost 6 years ago, the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, uncovered, I believe, 7 Hezbollah tunnels. When you think of terror tunnels, you think of Gaza, right? You think of Hamas. Well, they uncovered 7 multi-million-dollar terror tunnels that were dug from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. They closed them all down, except one. Israel kept one open for the public, for members of the media like myself, and diplomats and politicians and government officials, because Israel wants to show the world this is what we're facing at the hands of Hezbollah in the north. Well, folks, I was able to enter one of these Hezbollah terror tunnels, yes, with my good friend Jonathan Conricus, a former international spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces. And we talked earlier about this underground missile city that we've been showing you today. Hezbollah, again, just releases propaganda video, being relatively high tech for an underground facility. Computers, whole 9 yards, it's wired, electrical work, it's hooked up. Well, to my shock, this terror tunnel, which I entered, was also pretty well hooked up. And I wanted to show you right now because I think it's very relevant to what we're talking about. And this is a very real threat, this tunnel threat. Let's take a look right now at my time in a Hezbollah terror tunnel. You're not going to see this anywhere else, folks, along the Israel-Lebanon border with the Israel Defense Forces, an experience I will never forget. Take a look.
So Eric, welcome to a Hezbollah tunnel. Everything you see around you is how Hezbollah left it. We've added a few features for security, safety, the roof above you, but all of this, all the drill marks, this piece of equipment, and most importantly, this big drill bit, I don't know if drill bit is the right word,
yes,
but this is basically a cup that was connected to an electric drill, right? And this is how they excavated in solid rock. You can see the size here. They would drill, that would turn, and then they would pull the drill out, knock the piece off with a hammer, right? And then they would take that slab of stone and transport it through the tunnel into Lebanon, and then secretly try to disperse all of the debris inside Lebanon as far as they could without us noticing. Once we'll go down and you'll see the tunnel, you'll see how deep it is, how far it goes, and the amount of effort that Hezbollah put into having this kind of tunnel. Let's go down and have a look.
This is Hezbollah, electrical work.
Electrical work, we've added, again, for safety, the LED lighting, which Hezbollah didn't have.
But these steps that we're walking on, this is all Hezbollah crafted. And rest assured, the Iranian regime was very aware of this project.
Definitely aware, not only aware, but guiding, providing money.
Yes.
So unlike precision-guided missiles that Iran has the knowledge and Hezbollah doesn't, tunneling is actually quite an expertise of Hezbollah. We're about halfway down in this Hezbollah tunnel.
Only halfway.
Only halfway. And then the tunnel goes straight down, and then there's a long stretch of a straight path, which basically takes you to Lebanon. You see it's a complex structure here, winding and escalating. This is the level of commitment in Hezbollah to terrorize Israeli civilians.
Folks, there you have it. That was a bird's eye inside view inside of a Hezbollah terror tunnel. What did you think? Leave some comments here. We've got a very active chat. We've got thousands of people with us from around the world right now watching this live stream. What did you think? I can tell you how I felt. It was an eerie feeling, number one. Number two, I could feel, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I could feel this, and I know we're in a spiritual battle at the end of the day, at the root. I could feel the spiritual heaviness is the way I would describe it. I felt a heaviness. It was tangible in those tunnels. There was great evil performed in those tunnels and performed by evil men with evil demonic intentions. and you could feel it. You really could. And as you descended deeper and deeper down to the tunnel again, went some 200 feet beneath the ground, it was almost like you're descending into the bowels of hell. So definitely an eerie feeling. Here's something for you, by the way. The entry point, I guess you would say. Remember, that was a vast, long tunnel. It took years to build, by the way. So Hezbollah was not happy, nor was Iran when it was uncovered by the IDF and exposed. But it started on the Lebanon side, folks, remember. And then it stretched into northern Israel, into a community there. Well, on the Lebanese side, would you believe the source point for that tunnel was a mechanic? It was a mechanic's office where they're working on cars. Would you believe it? That shows you how Hezbollah has essentially commandeered all of southern Lebanon. They're using civilian homes and businesses as weapons storehouses. Look, in southern Lebanon, these beautiful communities to the naked eye, right across the border from northern Israel, in the homes there's rockets and missiles in civilian homes and in businesses like this mechanic that I saw where the tunnel originated from. Absolutely stunning. So that gives you an idea. We think of Gaza, right, being just a massive terror apparatus. The entire Gaza Strip. We're talking underground missile cities. Well, there's a massive underground subterranean labyrinth of underground cities in Gaza, as we know all too well, right? But they've spent time and money and energy on this unlimited. So very, very telling what you saw there. How, look, every home in Gaza, literally, I mean, talking to friends in the IDF who've served in Gaza over the past few months, it seems every home in Gaza doubles as a terror hub where there's rockets, weapons, there's missiles stored inside. Same deal in southern Lebanon. And you just saw it there. The source for that terror tunnel I just showed you was a mechanic's office, or his garage, I should say. So I talked about Iran painting itself into a corner. Here's what I mean. And this is really simple to understand. On April 13th, remember, that was the first time ever that the Iranian regime attacked Israel directly from Iranian soil. Key distinction there. Before, Iran would solely act through proxy, through Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Shia militias, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And they would have then what I call implausible deniability, meaning they'd say, we didn't do it. Our hands are clean. Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis launched the rockets. It wasn't us. Conveniently leaving out the fact that Iran helped plan the attacks, helped train the terrorists, and helped supply the terrorists and fund them. Implausible deniability. But folks, that went out the window on April 13th because Iran then attacked directly. These projectiles were launched from Iranian soil. So all of a sudden, Israel before, which was always reacting against the proxies, not really reacting directly against the head of the snake, the Iranian regime, said, you know what? We're going to hit the head of the snake, the fount of all this terror where it emanates from. Iran got away with April 13th. It wasn't successful, but it was successful in that they didn't face any major repercussions. That's why they have the nerve to try it again. And that's why they're talking about doing it again. They're emboldened. And the main reason is they know that the United States is tying Israel's hands and begging Israel not to respond in any kind of meaningful way. But now Iran has to do something. We talk about them being painted into a corner. They've been vowing and promising now for weeks, we're going to do it. So they have to do something, it would seem, because they're a very prideful bunch, and to uphold their reputation in the jihadi and terror world and among their gathering storm allies like China, Russia, and North Korea. So they have to do something, whether it's directly or employing Hezbollah or the Ring of Fire, or God forbid, striking an Israeli or Jewish target somewhere else in the world, not Israel proper. They're almost certainly going to do something. They've painted themselves in a corner in that regard. But here's the problem. Now they've said, we're doing something. We want revenge. We're going to do it. So they kind of have to do it. But here's the problem. If they do it, there's a very good chance that this time Israel will unleash hell upon their heads. And they know that. And I think that's a part of the delay here. Part of it, clearly psychological terror. Listen, this Hezbollah propaganda video today is psychological terror, right? Saying, look what we have. And we have more up our sleeve that you don't even know about. And we can hit you and reach you anywhere, Israel. But part of the delay, I believe, and we've talked here in the newscast over the past few days about the internal deliberations inside the Iranian regime. The new Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, having a very lively debate, reportedly, with Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the IRGC. The IRGC wants to hit Israel directly, Tel Aviv, civilians, go all in. And the proxies, which we've also discussed, Hezbollah, et cetera, they want to go all in. But there's other segments of the Iranian government led by Pezeshkian, reportedly, who just got sworn in 2.5 weeks ago, by the way. Not sure how much clout he has, but they're saying, hey, let's have a more limited, tactful response, because if we hit Israel hard, there's a very good chance, and they know this, there's a very good chance that Israel has a crippling response and cripples Iran's economy, and who knows, perhaps even strikes Iran's nuclear weapons facilities. That's the fear right now. And they're also looking out the side of their eye at that massive U.S. presence in the region right now. I believe some 9 warships in the waters of the Middle East, not far from the coast of Iran. So there's a lot of calculations and internal deliberations right now. And I think that's the major reason for the delay, because they're saying, man, we again, painting themselves in a corner. We have to do something now because we said we'd do something, number one. And number two, if they don't do something, they don't have deterrence. Put yourself in the Iranian regime's wicked shoes. If they don't do anything, then Israel will continue to assassinate and take out terror leaders on Iranian soil. This time it was Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas. Maybe next time it's a leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps in Tehran. We've seen it before. So they want to, I think, reestablish some sort of deterrence vis-a-vis Israel. The bottom line is this: they must act somehow, because they've there's no turning back now. They put themselves out there. So we shall see. This is still a 24 to 48 hour thing we're hearing, right? We'll keep it all in prayer. We will pray for the peace of Jerusalem, which is a biblical mandate. Hey, by the way, our good friend Yair Pinto and a lot of great content you can see every weeknight on our nightly show, Stakelbeck Tonight, my brand new show, just launched in late March on TBN, the world's largest Christian television network. Every weeknight, Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a re-air every night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in, watch the show, and if you miss it, we've got now a second YouTube channel. Yes, a second YouTube channel, as if we weren't busy enough. But hey, we're not complaining. It's for such a time as this. The Stakelbeck Tonight YouTube channel, right here on YouTube, at Stakelbeck Tonight. That's at Stakelbeck Tonight. Hey, head over there and subscribe as well, folks. We've got great clips from the TV show every night and a lot of prophetic content there in particular, which I think you'll really, really like. Ties into everything we're talking about right now. So check it out at Stakelbeck Tonight as well. And also remember, premium membership. For all our premium members, you can just click join here. If you're not a premium member, join right on the homepage. Premium members, we are having a premium live stream next Thursday. That is, I believe, August 22nd. Time flies. Thursday, August 22nd, a premium member live stream. It's basically an hour of Q&A. So if you want to get a little deeper here, my watchmen and women on the wall, please join us for that premium live stream. Sign up. That's next Thursday, August 22nd. And we can't thank you enough for your support that keeps us going to deliver this message of truth. Last thing to share with you, these talks in Qatar, Doha, the U.S. is excited about them. Israel saying not so fast, but this was very telling. Israel's security chiefs avoided landing at Qatar airport for these ceasefire talks due to the threat of an Iranian attack. Interesting. So we talked about Iran's response, and they painted themselves in the corner. Perhaps it's not against Israel proper. We pray it doesn't come at all. And we pray if it does come, that God provides a divine Iron Dome over the land of Israel that is even more miraculous than what we saw on April 13th. That is our prayer, and we're sticking to it. Keep it on prayer, folks. Hey, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us here on the live stream. If anything, and I mean anything, happens over the weekend, we will be coming to you live right here. So keep it right here. Be sure to subscribe. Have a great weekend. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.